I think some of you have been part of our previous events with Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro, but I think some people maybe not. And so I'll say a few words about our history in having the opportunity to host Khenpo here. As many of you will know, this is Khenpo's third visit to North America. And lest it be mistaken, I want to make it clear that it may seem, therefore, that it's easy for him to be here and it's easy for him to be speaking publicly as he is, but that is not the case at all. And I really want to emphasize that. The fact that he has persisted in traveling internationally and not just traveling quietly, but actually being a public voice is an indication of just how unusual he is. This is not an indication of how normal it is to do this. He and his colleague and other incredible Khenpo Sodage are extremely unusual because they have chosen this very fine line to walk, which makes public speaking very difficult. So I should say at the outset that Khenpo has asked that this not be for public release. So I know that we do have one set of cameras here that will be for archival purposes, but because of the sensitivity of the work that he's involved with, we ask that this not be recorded and this not be released. And I know we have media people in the audience, so thank you for understanding and your consideration on that. Khenpo has been known and is, I think, famous internationally now for his Buddhist scholarship and his teachings. And he has a very devoted following, both in the Tibetan public, but also in the Chinese public. And so this is all over the People's Republic of China, but also Singapore, Greater China. In Toronto, people will rush back to their homes in order to hear the daily broadcasts that the two Khenpos make, which just underlines how important their voices have become in structuring people's lives. And that said, what I'd like to emphasize here is some of the other aspects of Khenpo's tireless work. He is also one of the most dynamic intellectuals in the Tibetan public sphere right now. He has taken it upon himself to raise issues that have been galvanizing for many, polarizing for others. So he's a controversial figure, and he's taken that on because he is someone who's animated by a very powerful sense of faith and reason. And part of his commitment to reason is why he's here. People have asked me, why does Khenpo still, why does he keep coming to the West? What is he here for? And I think part of what is driving him is his great curiosity and need to better understand the world, because he keeps writing about it. He keeps writing about it for the Tibetan public, and he keeps writing about it for the Chinese public. And this is part of his journey and his search, his personal search for understanding that global context better, so he can himself process it all and write better. I've first realized his great commitment to these ideals when I visited Larung in 2010 and met him there. And he said something to me that made such an impression. He said that we never know how much space there is until we go out into the world and we act. We must act, we must do something, then we'll know. And in general, because of the history of the Tibetan people and of Tibet itself, there is so much that we don't know. There's so much uncertainty. So he has lived his life searching for those parameters, searching for those boundaries, so that we are doing what we can. And that's a principle that we talked about when he first arrived. The first inaugural lecture he gave at a North American university was here at GW, in one of our larger venues. some of you will recall. But today, I think 2 years later, that idea of do what you can given the parameters, given the limits of the circumstances in which we exist, has become even more powerful here in this country and around the world. Right? And Khenpo's philosophy has always been inspiring to me. He inspires so many, and we're very grateful that he's returned, and look forward to how we can build more building blocks for the future. And for those of you who would like to learn more and be more involved, we are launching this fall the Tibet Governance Lab as part of the larger project on research on Tibet, and would love to have people's input. So, and we are having the wonderful translation of Catherine Hardy, who comes from Oxford University, and we will be taking questions after the talk. So, thank you.
good. 야, 되니 참말라 슈트로 참지지게.
First, good afternoon to everyone.
되니 나랑 딸이 디 소프단디나 라탕 선바인.
This is my third time to this university.
되니 대랑 가서 민용용스 그 갑단다고 시비드니 야 거급 딘디숑송아랑 배가요.
And I'm very happy to have this opportunity to have a conversational dialogue in this small scale context.
되니 가서 갑단들라 냠바르 되니 페바라 투지시적인세.
And thank you to everyone who's come today.
되니 다 대랑 가서 되니 조르데 되니 갸다 보크바르 출르크 되니 제와 어떤지 조르스를
So the topic of the talk this afternoon is religious exchange or religious contact between Tibetans and Chinese.
되니 디 조르가 갑상도 등가서 롭단디 고득시 바레스.
And this topic was fixed or suggested by the university.
되니 딘디인디 디콜라 가서 개근 가시가 기론 시나 되니 딘디 삼고 요사레스.
So it's likely that there's a number of teachers who are interested in this topic.
딘디인디 나라티 토라 무서 그더니 고득다고 차르진다고 딘디 지금
So I haven't made any special preparation concerning the content of this.
옛날마다 가서 그때 나라랑 그때는 통야다 고야 그래서더니 정말 멋져지겠어.
But what I will do is share with everyone that which I know through my own experience.
되게 발신 가서 갑다 치초 찍다고 딘디슬라 셰사레스.
So the talk today will probably be for about an hour.
되니 디고라 가서 양한테니 저 저와들른다고 딘디시고나 양 발치 깔만지 수주수셰 카딘디슬라 안적사레스.
And after that, we can have a conversation or questions for 20 to 30 minutes.
되니 당보 당아서 야다 보고 추니까 그더니 차버 등의 저기.
So the first thing I'd like to talk about are the differences between Tibetan and Chinese Buddhism.
되니 가서 낭추디니 되니 다르기디니 합시가 원도시나 볼레디니 야 되니 there's nothing.
So in terms of the time of dissemination of Buddhism, the dissemination of Buddhism happened a bit earlier in China than it did in Tibet.
되니 옛날 되니 낭동 그 토니 되니 보고 나라 되니 저 나추고 나라 되니 야 나추고 나라 메바 되니 야 몸부스 도스.
However, in terms of the actual content of the Buddhist teachings and scriptures are concerned, there is content in the Tibetan tradition that does not exist in the Chinese tradition.
되니 야 나추고 나라 되니 가서 보고 나라 메바 되니 야 용시스 도스 다다.
And there is also a small amount of content in the Chinese tradition that was not existent in the Tibetan tradition.
되니 가서 보고 나더니 보고 전부 되니 여 되니 값스 네 되니 다 야다 보니까 줄고 돈이 판도선로 되니 레란다고 되니 쉬엔도스.
So from the period of the Tibetan Empire onwards, there were constant encounters between China and Tibet in the religious domain.
teni tikamni yar teni jalaka teni the lama teni kalakansam teni pola yone ju lojong shi anda ota teni shindu.
And at that period, during the period of the empire, there were some Chinese monks who came to Tibet to study.
대당 냠 콘소 lojong shi ada 냠도 teni yege kachi gerya teni jagnan yar teni pok tola yege kachi gerya la roba teni shindu koso.
And in addition to studying, also assisted with translating some material from Chinese into Tibetan.
teni nga zo da pok nala ina kwachu da tan chu zen teni soso teni shini jagyo res yagrni sar gerwati.
In the Tibetan tradition, there's a distinction that is drawn in the canon between the Kanjur and the Denjur, the direct teachings of the Buddha and the commentaries on his teachings.
teni ti tola teni te pok lama so rang teni zapi teni songbom tu so yori teni yendi kaksam ra wondos kwanjer da tanjer da teni pok lama so songchu teni kaksam ra wondos.
And then in addition to these two categories are also the original compositions of Tibetan religious writers. So in total there's 3 different divisions of religious literature: the direct teachings of the Buddha, the Indian commentaries on those, and then the original compositions of Tibetan religious authors.
teni tenga so karchaka tola teni soso teni so kaksam shini rigor.
So on the in the contents of we divide the texts in question into these 3 categories.
teni jag chu na la na te so chman teni ji lolok chik shini jang dos.
But in the Chinese Buddhist tradition, all of these different categories of literature are all put together.
tela da zang jin ji di na la teni kwanjer yang de tanjer yang de teni soso jag teni soso lama so teni songpa yang de chama teni lolok shini jang dos.
So within the Chinese Buddhist canon, the Dazang Jing, all of those 3 categories are combined together.
teni telam do da na ni shen dos nga so jag ti pok chula na ni shen do teni khosu jag na ni teni ya shi jang dos do na se.
Another distinction is between the sutras and the tantras, or the exoteric and esoteric traditions. This is a distinction in the Tibetan tradition. It's also a distinction in the Chinese Buddhist tradition.
teni do na la teni nga so pok na la maybe teni te chukor teni kashi dos tarta kashi dos.
And in the sutras, or the sutric tradition, there are several scriptures that exist in the Chinese tradition that did not exist in the Tibetan tradition.
teni naka nala ina teni da te jag di nala teni jag kachu nala teni do da ngak zin ni de ngak zi yo yo res.
In terms of the tantras, the Chinese tradition has the distinction between sutra and tantra too, and there are some tantras in the Chinese Buddhist tradition.
ina ti ngak te la ta ta ra bo ina pe na wang jin ra ta chjin ra ta ten ri chim bo zmen dus.
However, the tantras in the Chinese tradition don't entail receiving and giving empowerments and tantric instructions and transmissions and so forth.
wang jin chjin de so ti yong zhang la ten ri we na bon zhang wo ten ri shi ni ta men de ta tang.
Not like the general tradition of giving empowerments and transmissions as it exists in the Tibetan tradition.
teni ti jag teni korang so teni sang te la teni tang jarab ka kaps teni par jirwarin du teni ko so zena tang mi zini teni ze dos.
So the tantric component of the Chinese tradition was translated during the Tang dynasty, so this is referred to in Chinese as the Tang Tantra.
teni ti jis teni ti sang te teni janag ni par teni ta nyong la par ger dos.
And then from China, it was translated into Japanese in Japan.
teni nyong la teni ger sawi kar se teni dong mi zini teni shashok ko sang ze an ro teni ge mang teni ta kan dos.
And then after it was translated into Japan, or into Japanese, they gave it the name Eastern Tantra.
teni jag teni tang mi ze te da teni nyong ko teni shashok ko teni sang ze te ni ka de don dak chi barin dos.
But the Tang Tantra from China and the Eastern Tantra from Japan are the same in terms of their content.
Teni te ngaso book nala ina teni ngaso sangha la teni sangha shibata sangha namba zini teni yewa ni shengdos.
And these, this tantric component does correspond to the Tibetan tradition. In the Tibetan tradition, there is a division between the outer tantras and the inner tantras.
Teni yendi teni di jag teni sangha tada teni Nihongo sangha teni ka ngaso book ina sangha shiba zi derindos sangha shiba.
So the tantric content of the Chinese tradition and the Eastern tradition in Japan corresponds with what the Tibetans call the outer tantras.
Teni Nihonla tarong te lama so kap se teni wang karya da teni yoze dos nga tatalo gengkha teni chi teni rojire so gilon te zu shipa yen teni koso tarong wang ti kerji yo teni zeng dos lama so lore ga nala teni wang chimbon rawo. And
in the esoteric tradition in Japan, I have heard that the lamas do give empowerments. I had a chance to go to Japan just this last winter and gain some insight into what happens there, and I was told that once a year the lamas give tantric empowerments in big ceremonies. And they also have large mandala tankas in their temples or shrines. So these are deities from the outer tradition of, the outer tantras in the Tibetan tradition.
Teni koso teni shamtung kang nala te sangha ka teni te ta zhen ra wo ta dorji ra te so kor to jejin dos.
Drendong kang ba. And in Nihon and Japan, in museums in Japan, one can also see vajras and bells and other things.
So sama nga so bog teni te sharjit ka teni parwang karya ka teni So
these are all the vajras and bells from the Eastern tradition that correspond with the Tibetan tradition.
Tani tangaso sang wok sanga kanala tani shirjit zeki tele jamba tani narjit tani sanga tani shigores.
So in the Tibetan tradition, beside the outer tantras, we also have the inner tantras.
Tani te ngaso te jamba nala tani pena jana kasanga nyahong kasanga te sunala rikimendus.
But this content is not found in the Chinese esoteric or the Japanese esoteric traditions.
Tani harka thangka tini yang rikimendu tani ju de pena narjik tini sanga thamo main ba tini koso pena genkonra wata tini mamboyo to sosoma tini rikimendus.
And so we don't find in the Chinese or the Japanese traditions tankas or images of mandalas, etc., that correspond with the inner tantras.
Tani ti sanga ti nala ta nga so tarta tini ta pena nga so nanchula lojong singen ga mamang chishu tini hakoya pena zoba chimboze andra tini shagja chimboze pena tinkhorja teso tsama ti narjit ja ti nala yores.
So those teachings that most people have heard of, such as Dzogchen or Mahamudra or Kala Chakra, all of these belong to the classification of inner tantras.
Tani pena sangha nyangma tini ta te jamtandra tini na te sangha tela tini mahata anata ad tini ramba sumshe yori ti ramba sumbo ti tani Nihongo sangha ta jaga sangha na yo maris.
So according to the classification of the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, the inner tantras are divided into three different yoga categories: Mahayoga, Hatha Yoga, and Anu Yoga, and none of these three categories or the content of these three categories is present in the Chinese tradition.
Teni di korto ta sangha namba teni di korto teni ta ngatsu pe na ngama raina teni yagarla tani yagar kadini hoicha yoris.
So this tantric, the content of the tantras in the Tibetan tradition used to exist in India.
Tani ngamayina tani yagar ni mar tani ti Sanskrit ti pecha te mambo tani bog cheryone samita tasola mambo yoris.
And in the past there were many Sanskrit scriptures that were taken from India to Samya in Tibet.
Tani tartanda boina tani chama lagne tani chimbom thoya mandukse.
Lag is in man, Bindu.
Makashini
Oh, that's it.
lagna.
Yeah. But many of these have been lost and no longer exist.
Tani jemton kankashi kashi nana tani Sanskrit tani demma kashinda wota yana tani both chongchong tani chireni tani thongji yoris.
However, occasionally in museums you still find a few pages of these original Sanskrit manuscripts.
Tani maktok bate mambo mandukse.
But aside from these, there's not very many left at all.
Tani te mayo tsarti tani yagar ka tani kaka thola mayo tsarti tani to karu jamba thola shirdang tani ngiryo marise. Taperna tani de pali kanda o tani na shirdang namani girmandukse ti thola. Karu jamba thola shirdang ngiryo marise. Perna pali kanda o tani na tambo ni girmandukse ti.
Okay. But aside from those scriptures that were translated from Sanskrit, the Tibetans didn't translate from other languages, so there was not translation from the Pali scriptures.
Tani indi shirdang lorji ka thola tani te sangnak te nangba ka tani sangnak narji ka tani perna zogba chimbo shakja chimbo taso kora te lorji ka thola parche tani yige ni ka thoma boyo samares. Yirgni.
Okay. So in terms of the Dzogchen and Mahamudra traditions of the inner tantras, there are ikjiknirba,
Yirgni.
two different kinds of scripture.
Chete tani lagjer ka tani tambo tere Sanskrit tambo tere.
The first was Sanskrit scriptures,
Tani jambate tani te boji ka thola gerwa tere.
and then the second were the Tibetan translation.
Tani lagjer ka taso tsama tani ta ngama jagar la ina tani shirdang te pe sangwa dawo tani sangja dawo tani je halipa tani chap chimbo tani ngama ni yo mares.
As for the Sanskrit texts, they were originally considered extremely secret and were not circulated widely.
Tini ti kaps tini tarung atso parjawya laksar da tini tario samaris ti kaps.
And in those days, there was no technology of photographing or anything like that.
Tini indi tini pecha jagar la pe kumbores.
So these texts, these books, were extremely rare in India.
Tini jini tini atso bog tini lozawa taso tini roni tini tawi kaps ta te lama so rang nyamlin che tini sanjanda boshini tini pot chireni ri so ger ka tini nyarsak shedeya ma to pa tini chi ndi pemzo khanda taso na la par yongchim daw tini shimnduk ti kaps.
So when the early Tibetan translators first went to India, the only scriptures that were available were the several copies in the personal property of individual practitioners. They didn't exist widely in libraries or anything like that.
Tini indi tini jagar la tsama tini lagja se ta ta na boina tini yang chi shamtung khanda so na la te yojire ma to pa tili tini yong jagla tini mnduk se.
However, after that, they were all lost or destroyed. Perhaps there are still a few available on display in museums, but they are not widely disseminated.
Tini indi ti sang na jit le ti ta ga chum zambolong ga thola tini ti wor ma to bok yige ma to ba tili jambaz ga thola cha chang sik jang mnduk se.
So aside from that which is, well, in terms of the inner tantras in the world today, besides those that are available in the Tibetan language, there is no other language in which the inner tantras exist in a complete, intact form.
Tini ti jis tini per na ga so bok yige ga thone phar tini ta jai ga thola te jerjin daw inji ga thola bishis te jerjin daw tini yore ma to pa tini shirdang tambo tini reduk.
So after, then subsequently some of what existed in Tibetan was translated into languages such as Chinese and English.
Teni jamba teni mdo kortela teni ngama teni tez ta jangambo kapsa pena janang ni yara teni tez korchig gerdu singa so boko yigi thola boko kachu nangla.
In terms of the Gyanagni Bo Yar, in terms of the sutras, there was quite a long time ago content translated from Chinese into Tibetan.
당아초 boko teni kachu nangla teni tsamba ro teni tsamba teni chusan chongchong shiona chechong tsama shina teni tongchak mangboyo tongchak kashi yoris. Tsamba chu tsamba.
Shokchang marba.
Shokchang mar.
Liu travel there.
Lega yang mare ta tsamba chongchong. Tamdo mundra chongchong.
Oh, let's say. Okay. Dongchak Mombu Yoruba.
Dongchak kashi yoris.
Oh, let's say. So in terms of the individual sutric texts in the Tibetan Ganja, there are perhaps several thousand individual ones.
Tinala janagni yar gerwa parchi nishi tsakshigi na teniz dos.
Of these, there are probably 21 that were translated from Chinese into Tibetan.
Teni te mamchoti jagarni tsama jagarni mar gerwa taktaris.
But aside from these, the rest of this content was translated from India to Tibet.
Tateso maso ngamagan teni zambu yarab kap tin lorjire.
So that is all history relating to the period of the Tibetan Empire.
Teni ti gong ta ti gong la ti warta teni ta parchi lo ja gong lorjires.
And then that period of time is approximately 100 years.
Teni ti kapsa teni janaka mingo zegare teni ti kapsa teni jalama mambo yar teni simri kapsa dansa kala songdos.
Gane song kamula?
Dansa ka simri garsan.
Simri garsan?
Seram rehu gedda.
Okay, so that's the first period that Khenpo would like to speak about, and then the second period is approximately now 100 years ago, during the Republican era in China, and during this time a number of Chinese monks went to the 3 monastic large monasteries in Lhasa to study.
Teni khonsunani khashes the pe teni jima teni boy yakbo shingendu rendo.
And there was a few of them who eventually became very competent in their Tibetan language ability.
Teni koso khashega teni ta pena je dangni chimbu je lama teni langramda ngramda toso mara teni janagla jerwaris.
And a couple of them translated Je Tsongkhapa's texts on tantric and sutric texts into Chinese.
Teni nyangma teni zogba chimbu korean kashi mari gerendus.
And they also translated a few Dzogchen texts into Chinese too.
Teni yang yar teni janaka teni yike ga toni yar work ga to yara yang teni kashi gerendus.
And during that time, a few texts or scriptures were translated from Chinese into Tibetan.
Kashi yar girni teni jetak yak botang matamni teni laksonga rawda yang kashi girni yang teni girm chore songa rawda choma girm chore di chocha songa teni kai ma to sheka ma to girma to teni ndux.
So during this time, there were some texts that were not well proofread and became lost, and then there were other translation efforts that were not complete, so they didn't translate the complete text.
Perna teni tamchu teni ngomba korla teni tamchu shemzo chimbozi teni yores.
So one of these texts was one that related to the Abhidharma teachings called the Great Explanation or Great Commentary.
Teni ngacho bok teni ngamaina ti lorgi mambo teni sheddaji da tinani lung mambo tangda ya mato pa tamchu ti bok teni jongna la mundu tanjer gna la mundu.
The Bechade.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is that particular text is one that didn't exist in the Tibetan tradition.
Teni te koso 자가 그 통에 야 저런도스.
And it was translated from Chinese into Tibetan.
이나 때 따르다나 마찬 말인도스. 다 레그 녀시라고 되니 참가면도스 나니.
Oh, Larung Sangamindwe. Oh, but still it wasn't translated in its entirety, only 20 chapters or so.
되니 야 지딱 또서 약보 다른 땅 탐면도스.
And still until today it isn't well proofread or edited.
되니 때 따르다더니 지딱 땅 마탑 바더니 길 참아 길 마탑 큰때 다 바튼 땅이 보고 나라 바튼 땅이 참아가 되니 샤진라고 신이 된지 시에요. 따르다.
But currently there is the intention or the plan to print and publish these texts that were not originally well proofread and edited or translated in their entirety.
되니 디값스 되니 이게 야르게르 마르게르 된디시 된칸도 쪼도 거저 야 라마 데소레도스.
So during that period, the people who were mainly involved in the translation of text, whether from Tibetan into Chinese or in the other direction, the people translating were mainly Chinese monks.
이나 때라 되니 보고 되니 다 뎁신다 거저 되니 록밤만 보시오 사리스.
But still, Tibetan lamas, Tibetan geshis probably helped out a lot in the process.
아마 옛날 때니 가서 보고 전부 여러분 그 값스더니 야나니 야르게나 야그니 마르게나 야나니 야르다 뉴뉴뉴 마토 저려 말다 디 값이나 베나 때니 야그 거더니 뭐 반츠다 되니 회파직다 되니 보고 지그 니거더니 뭐 니거더니 저거리스.
During the period of the Tibetan Empire, taking into account all that was translated back and forth, the amount that was translated from Chinese to Tibetan was very small, and in this case it entailed two scholarly, a Tibetan scholarly monk and a Tibetan scholarly monk cooperating in or collaborating in the translation process.
되니 멋지고 되니 결야대 배 뉴뉴 멋지고 저렇게.
Very, very seldom did it happen that one person would do the translation by themselves.
되니 디지니 되니 결값스 되니 멋지게 소소한 거 결야 되니 되지 mambo 착성.
But after this, cases where one person did the translation by themselves became quite common.
되니 디값스 되니 결위 되니 디자라 맞서 되니 결화 때라 양 포크 약보 마고니 되니 균 mambo요 그래서.
And because during this period, the Mingguo Shichirwa, so during the Republican era, because the Chinese lamas who were doing the translation were not completely proficient in Tibetan, so there were quite a lot of mistakes.
배나가서 버크 그나라 냐동즈죠. 근데 요래 냐동즈나 냐제나 다 냐경와 되니 제가 정하라서 요래서. 동제나 되니 남카나 남군나라 다와 메파 되니 시슴치 담발라 제가 요래서 가서 버크 그나라.
So, for example, in Tibetan, there's a word nyatong, and the nya component means the 15th day of the lunar month, and the dong means the 30th day when there is no moon.
되니 야라 맞서 때 약보서 마고니 되니 냐제 티티 치는 거 냐텔라 저죠.
But the Chinese monks translating, not understanding this, translated the nya to mean another nya, which is the fish that swims in the water.
되니 동즈지도 제가 메파 되니라고라 저죠.
And they translated the dong part of that word as emptiness or nothing, which is another meaning for dong.
되니 양 가서 되니 땀주고 나라 되니 용적 마임비 되니 측 되니 가시가시 되니 통역 받듯서 동양 자원이 고면 돼.
And then there are also some words in the commentarial literature that 디코소랑 소소그 되니
아마 가서 보고 되니 땀주고 나라 보고 되니 남긴 배슛 만보 못 당야 되니 측 요요요지 더서 양 가서 또 고면 돼.
And there's also occasionally terminology in the commentarial literature which is not standard or general terminology, so the monks often didn't understand these words either.
되니 되나요? 과랑하고 미르잘라 되니 지진라고 되디 마시니 코스 파르더니 저정도.
But they often did not ask other people about these words, they just went straight ahead and did the translation.
tindi yende tini gyami ka ka thone tana goji chi me pa tindi chamne dus.
And so it ended up, their translations ended up in a way that it's not even possible to know what they're talking about looking at it in Chinese.
Tini te mo chik tini gerjami kyun rendus. Mo ni gerna ti tindi kyun yongo mara tini nato yongo mara ta mo chik sosorang ka gerjati tini tindi nato yongo dus.
So that's the shortcoming of translating text individually. If it had been done with a person on each side, then those sort of mistakes wouldn't come about.
Tini gatsu zambu yarab ka kapsina tini yige gerya te la pe tini chum tambo yores.
During the Tibetan Empire, there were very strict laws or regulations about the process of translation.
Tini gatsu tini yigir ka tini ta andi jangse fan yi xue se tini te yigir ka rpa ta tini ti rpi zonglik ta tini lo tom cha chi da ni bya ga tini gong ne ku zo de zo yores.
And so it was during this period that they developed a theory or principles of written translation. This was developed 1200 years ago.
Tini bog tini kai ka thola tini chungzut ka ni ga tini shamjer ka tini chungzut te yang lo tong ta chi da ni bya gong la zo de.
And similarly, 1200 years ago, the Tibetan scholars also invented a bilingual dictionary.
Tini ti kapsa chama ga tini chungzut te dang tini ti yige gerya ga rpi zonglik teni ka la teni tini gerya ma to ba gang shong ma shong gerya tsawa ni chokhom de ti kapsa.
So during this period, when translations were done, they were based on strictly on the dictionary and the rules or theory of translation that were developed at the time. They didn't translate as they saw fit individually.
Tini ga chu tarta yena tamju chama ga tini mjigla njiksom ga na la gerjang jite tang la papa ji tini sum song yores. Te chu work ka zejo gerjang se gerzena fai ger
Yeah.
ger
Yeah. Any genres in it?
a tambo chu work ka zejo ta gerjang jite tang la papa ze yores. Tini ngere re re shi jam
Any usual? Any?
ma ta tambo ze da tini gerjang tini jite
Yeah.
gerwa jipa tini tang la papa tang la papa
Any did so sumba.
a te ga chu ka chu ta tam chu chama ga mjigla
That's it.
tini jagar ka panjata ji se jite da tini bok lo za wa ji ga tini gerjang se tini jipa se tini tang la papa tini sum yori chama ga mjigla.
Okay, so at the end of all of the commentaries or translations, there are three things. I will get to what the content is soon, that fall into the categories of Gyurjang, Shide, and Dengla Papa.
Right.
That's it, yeah.
Tini gerjang se ya te tini jagar ka panjata chik dang khepa chik dang tini bok tini khepa chik khoni ga tambo jagar ka yege thoni sir bogi ka thola gerwa te gerjang re.
No, that's it. So those texts that fall within the category of Gyurjang are those that were translated from Sanskrit to Tibetan with a Indian and Tibetan scholar collaborating.
Tini jipa jite tini khoni ga ger chabi jini tini korang goni ngama part tini jitak tang ni tini jagar ka thola kan jindo bok ka thola tini zinan jukund te jamu shini tini jipcha ga tini jitak tang res.
And then those, and then Shide, this second category or process refers to texts that after being translated were then very meticulously proofread, and the scholars in question cross-checked the translation against the Sanskrit original and the Tibetan text that they were translated into.
Tani tala papazia te tani girwa tang jitak tani tang chabi jini tani panchada koranga reshi diaw tani lojawa ga tani tela nyen tani riushi ni te ga ta nika ga ti nangdum te tani ga ti reshi diam ni tani tala pamne tani tama chinjung tar ta rendu yike yang tani chinan rukundu nangdum yang tani chinan rukundu zini tani tachichi jakare te tala papazia kres.
So then the third, and these are actually all different stages of the process of translation. So the third stage is after the two versions are cross-checked against each other is what is referred to as Dangla Papa, and what happens here is a pandita or scholar explains or expounds on the meaning of the teaching or text to the translator, so that the way the text is translated is cross-checked for meaning, and once it's established that this is okay, then the translation is considered to be complete.
Tani ti kapsidani sami la tani jab gersa tani pe tani chimbo yore tani dinani gerwa cho tani kozo zigre ma to ba sacha janni gercho yon choko marda gadi gerna yon ti karcha ka tawla tani jakamandu ti kapsi
Samye Mado. And at this period, at this time, only texts that were translated by or at Samye were considered to be valid and put within the collections of legitimate or approved texts. Other translations were not considered to meet this official standard.
tani ti kapsidani changma tani tsik gerlik chiboda tsik chibo besho tangni changma jingir tani sheni tani gerkres.
So at this time, the words that were used and the way of translating were done in a very standardized way.
tani ti gemsengi tani ngacho tarta tani kwachu tani bodo jada saga yore tani tanju bodo nibja kyomdona bodo samja yore bodo samja ti nala tayona tani ti lojawa o tanda amdo lojawa yensarenda khamba lojawa ndal hasa lojawa giryo sareso chigyam gogiyo mar sama nychik gerado tani jis.
So it's for this reason that today, when we look at the combined scriptures, the Tibetan canon,
bodo samja bodo kwachu bodo gya tanchu bodo nibja.
Let's say. So the combined volumes of the Tibetan canon comprise the 300 volumes, and so when we look at them today, it's not possible to say, oh, this text was translated by a Tibetan from Amdo, this one was translated by a Tibetan from Kham. It's not possible to tell this based on the language of the translation.
Teni ti jila teni ngacho te chu nala te parche teni da mang chi shu te teni yachi gupchu teni zika ta lo tong shi garang koso ko zum yawa da chama yang roluk ten rao shi ni zheng du.
And thereafter, probably for the next 1,000 years or so, 80 to 90% of translations followed these rules or procedures.
Teni ti gemsengi teni ngacho ndo teni dal hasa go zheng ndo amdo myo zheng du sama rao teni chigyang go jiyo mari pe na gemyen hongqing ram jum rabo ina ni korang wisang ge mo re. teni je zongka ban rao ina teni korang amdo ma ina korang ga song na la ta na onde amdo rinde wisang teni chigyang ra ka mari chama jingjer re.
So it's for this reason when we look at these texts, we're not able to say, oh, this person, this translator or author was from Lhasa or from Amdo. For example, the omniscient Longchenpa was from central Tibet, Tsongkhapa was from Amdo, and yet this is not apparent by the language of their written works.
Di gemsen teni kwang so chini chungzo tangla papa da nini yigirshi bi rubi zonglip teni sak dambo teni tangla papa jarni tangla pavne teni di thogni yige girbi gemsen ji rendu.
And the reason for this is because a standardized dictionary was established, as well as a common set of standard principles on translation, and because they were followed, this had the result of there not being differences in this way.
Teni di jini ngazo gongdo teni shapa lo bya gong sencho ni ya german bo shi pa te sola teni tinji ge sak dambo yongyo mares.
But then, more recently, in the last 100 years, there's been a lot of translation back and forth, and yet this this period of translation did not follow such standardized procedures.
Teni ti gemsengi teni nato mambo yongo yoris.
And for this reason, a lot of problems have arisen.
Teni teso ta ngaso ngama logi ta teni nyerab ko logi. There is jawo ko teni 얘기가 도다 정거 돌아 판선 거더니 네 지금 리라 이걸 던지더랬어.
So what has just been described is the what maybe ancient history and then more recent modern history, the connection between the state and the translation process of Buddhist literature.
근데 야거더니 좀다 보고 좀니다 양더니 집차 거니더니 더나 가시다 난도 거 돌아 봐 수익장라고 온득스.
If we compare some Tibetan Buddhist texts and Chinese Tibetan Buddhist texts, then in terms of and they're the same texts, the content is exactly the same.
베나 가서 오마 짜와시르 방금 방발로 접거든요. 오마 짜와시르라 보이나 더니 보거든요. 나마니 게라다 야라요 나마니 티니 게르장들더니 드니 더나 아니 나도 ጭ바 시장에서 드니 더 카시드니 마스터 받더니 ጭ바 시장 야샤급지 고르거도 ጭ바랜도스.
For example, Nagarjuna's main treatise on the Madhyamaka both was translated at an early stage into both Tibetan and Chinese, and in terms of the content, with the exception of just a few words, 99.9% of the content is exactly the same.
드니 카시양 드니 차버 친구요사 드니도스 베르나 가츠온데 길라마 드니 길라마 사와 드니나 드니 야가 드니 때 나마 길라마다 보고 나마 드니 길라마가 땀주니께 바라 차버 빼 친구도스.
But in terms of the Uttura Tantra, this was also translated a long time ago into both Chinese and Tibetan, but there's a very significant difference in the way that the content was translated. And there's a big difference between the two in terms of the completeness of the translated content.
드니 길라마타위나 파치 드니 보고 길라마가 좀고 시칸라고 마토만도스.
And so the Chinese version of this text only amounts to approximately half of the content of the Tibetan version.
드니 티 시르탄 야거 그드니 페 랑라 드니 차버 차창와다 마창와 차버 mambu 요레스.
But there was also quite a difference between the completeness of the original manuscripts in India.
드니 텐라오 드니 잠바가 톨랑 드니 차버 드니 집거타나 mambu 요사스.
And if one looks carefully, then there are also many other differences.
드니 양 갑갑스 드니 가서 지르르게 톨라 드니 양 데즈 양 측 지르르게 톨라 데리 중 데리 집찬라 오샤나 드니 양 만자와 용거득스.
And if we look at the situation even more carefully, there are many differences in terms of the way that words are translated.
베르나 누르디 당전 jarbo 지지요리스 데가초 볼라양 요리 야라양 둑스. 당전 jarbo 도르디 당전 jarbo 사무디 원진서 자.
Then the King of Samadhi Sutra exists in both Chinese and Tibetan version.
디나라 티니 스치거리지 디나라가 저 베르나 나라 묵당 나와 나영 사드마 먼지 당가 저 베르나 묵금 통나 디니 대영 사드마 마레스 사마즈나 공도 양딱바 마레스 사드마 마레스 디니 나와가 잡고나요 디니 대영 디니 양딱바 마레 디니 든지가 디니 스치거리지 묵당 나와 나영 사드마 먼지니 오그 보그 지리네 그러나 코랑 사마 마레스 사마즈나 양딱바 사당담바 당가 좀 먹어서 통나야 된 통통 그랬다. 이나 된吃完에 나와가 자투바데吃完에 대 양딱바 차당담바 된지 말해지니 된지 기려어서 가서 보고 나라.
So within this sutra there is a line that says or the meaning of the line is that which we see or perceive with our eyes and that which we perceive with our ears is not real. And when this was translated into Tibetan, the word that was used for unreal had the meaning of that which we see perceive with our eyes and ears is just an appearance, it's an illusion, so not inherently existent.
Teni jang na la teni geryon di teni multa na wa na 찻만 문 제요 말이 묵 찻메 바연제들이 저러요. 찻메 바 무량 무시.
But the way the Chinese version translated this word was not as what we see with our eyes and ears is unreal, but that our eyes and ears are infinite.
Tini nangla yang takba gang reda mari zeni tini tagona shertang ti nguni tani te jetak tangona tini ngasola jagrga tini sanskrit te peo go reda te tata yom mares.
In order to establish which of these translations was correct, we would need to verify them with the original Sanskrit manuscript. However, it no longer exists.
Ina ngatsu tana nangdung toni tana tini jag tini girte nordux.
However, looking at it just from the level of content, we can see that the Chinese made a mistake.
Bekarezina ngatsu tini muk tsama mare nawa tsama mare se te ngatsu tongbani ke toni tini shayona tini soya mambo yore te ko alen na reshi jab tu kares.
Ni yapko ma song ti chisu.
Di muk ta nawa na tsama menzi ne ngatsu bok shaling da wote tongbani ke toni shana tongbani ke toni shana
That's it.
tini reshi jab tu kare ko alen tu kare tini soya mambo yore.
And the reason is that the Tibetan translation, whereby that which we see with our eyes and ears is not real, this is corroborated by much explanation on emptiness. And these explanations or expoundings on emptiness would back up this kind of understanding or translation.
Ina muk nawa tsad me bayanzina tini ko alen dang reshi jab pe khamore.
However, it would be quite difficult to try to explain the translation that our eyes and ears are infinite.
Te muk tsad me ba yozena yo ma morela muk ni yo mares.
We can't say that eyes are infinite. Everyone only has two of them.
Teni muk tsad me bam 통거레제난 통거 말에 가서 muk tsad dang ba 여랑 뭐 통통 막 또 봤더니 tsad me ba teni ja친 분 통통 거 말에.
Neither can we say that that which we see is infinite. We can only see within a very limited space, and so that explanation doesn't work either.
Teni yende de gaso samda te nor song teni sam ko yos.
So we would, on this basis, conclude that that translation is mistaken.
Teni yang gaso rini ge jabjung rada mandra ga tone yang ja thola yang te jipcha yosa teni yang kashi ndux.
But in terms of a kind of a cultural comparison, there are a few details that the Chinese tradition possesses.
Tani perna de partsasina ura jag uzi jizo ama tsawa za soma o to kondo o to tini bag bilu chongchong ko zana bilesina kondo bag cho bazina kondo wa chu balang ko cho koso ya balang ko cho chongchong ko tini ti parsa ta zana koran phona reso ni do de tanzin jahuna tini son res.
So, for example, in the Chinese translation of the King of Samadhi Sutra, it is said that if a young calf eats a lotus root, then they will get a sore stomach. So it's not just in the Chinese tradition that this is said, it's said in both translations.
So
in the Tibetan translation, it is said that if a calf eats the lotus root, it will get a sore stomach. The Tibetan version just puts this in a straightforward way. It doesn't explain the reason for this. But in the the Chinese translation of this part, there is a more clearer explanation.
디토라 사망보유 비김신지 포하거나니 짐부터니 드니 포나그래지 야든지 저정득스.
So the way that the Chinese translated this was to say that when the lotus root is pulled out from the ground, it is done so it's pulled out of mud. And because the lotus roots then have a lot of dirt on them, when the calf eats them, they are not able to digest them properly, and so therefore they get a sore stomach. So this is the way that the detailed way that the Chinese translated this part of the text.
드니 야라 비메도 파사데 요르 야 사찰라티 깨거나 볼랑아서 요 말이스.
And lotus roots, grew in China, whereas they did not grow in Tibet.
드니 아서 드니 메도 파마가 짜가자나 포나그래지 기타 마토 드니 집샤송요 말이스.
So for this reason, in the Tibetan version, we just say that the calf eats the lotus and gets a sore stomach and doesn't say anything more about it than this.
드니 코서 드니 메도 파마 나란 담망보요다 딘담드 마르마드니 드니 발랑거 쳐 잡장나 드니 발랑거 쳐 포나지도서 하고 요인사리 드니 저정득스.
And it's probably because they have lotus flowers in China, and they know that if they weren't washed and were eaten just like that, they would cause the calf to get a sore stomach. So this is probably because they knew about this that they translated it this way.
옛날에 산스크리트라 간디요 아서 따뜻해야 말스타타.
However, how it was in the original Sanskrit version, this is something we aren't able to know because it no longer exists.
나서 파 샤파잡나 산스크리트라 드니 발랑 트그 드니 자나 포나 레지진라고 드니즈마 똑바 메 드니 야데 카사무라고 신이 결정 멘로 삼반다고 드니득스. 아 드니라 온데서 나수 삼로다 파 샤파잡나 드니라 인사레 삼모득스.
Probably if we try to sort of logically reason what the case was, then it's likely that it did exist in the Chinese version. Then it did work dan de medus. Ganke. Nongamoyina.
말이 드네 나수 삼나. 데 산스크리 코랑가 나라. 드니 셔탕드니 발랑가 드니 척거 바미자와자나 포나 레삼 제kinda 마토 잠바치 요사 마레 삼고두지.
Okay.
드니 야그드니 코랑가 티 gem성 데즈 티토라 게르니 사룬다 신이 게르정드 드니 저 삼고두지.
So we'd probably say that it just said in the Tibetan, the original Indic version that when a calf eats a lotus root, it gets a sore stomach, and it was probably the Chinese who added a bit extra explanation of that process.
드니 티 값스 드니 다 라마 야 라마서 야르르니 드니 로정신데 드니 보고 라마 카시 드니 영민고 값스라 티 값스 영 보고 라마 카시 마르드니 양나라 드니 손에 양추 송두스.
So during the Republican period, there were quite a number of Chinese monastics who came to Tibet to study. There were also several Tibetan religious figures who preached the Dharma in China.
거기서 드니 디값거든요 고민당거든요 고추 친부 가실라 시킨 친부 장득스 디값스.
And they had quite some influence on a number of, or a couple of major Kuomintang political leaders during that time.
옛날 야친부용 탑만득스 디값스.
However, their influence wasn't a massive or widespread one.
드니 코소 이게 용수 게르득스.
And they only translated a very small number of texts.
다 게르지듯이 초간다야다 지금 논찬다고 드니 게르득스.
Mainly what they translated were ritual liturgies and liturgies for recitation and so forth.
배차드니 종라드니 게 전부드니 탑만득스.
But doctrinal texts they weren't able to translate.
드니 볼라 야르 용컨 것드니 깁시 소원나니 깁시 카시거드니 배약보 게르득스.
She's a Bernard any
맞잖아니 야르 용컨 거 드니 야깁시 소원나니 카시거드 나추야게 마기 배약보 신득스.
But among the Chinese monastics who came to Tibet, a couple of them were able to translate very proficiently.
드니 카시스 지니 드니 더 말레랑 그 드니 얘기 소드니 보이고 돌아 경케 레송득스.
And then there were a couple who translated works on Marxism and Leninism into Tibetan.
그때 드리레스 디 나라디 찹 드리가 가시가 드니 추결결에도 가시가 결결에 먼저
No, 民国时期是吧?
디 멋도 속 나네
Oh,
다리까지
that's it.
디 이제그래요.
가시드니 or okay. So
가시가 추결결에도
Yeah.
추결도 가시가 추결결에 먼저 드니 마크스 같더니 랑르 같더니 익차돼서 때 보이고 돌아기는데 결근 착성세지마 결근 거 소어도 참도.
Oh, let's see. Okay. So during this period, there of period where Chinese came to Tibet, several of them, or a number of them, translated religious works, and a number of them came to be mainly translators of political works on Marxism and Leninism. In the end, this was how the situation mainly occurred.
드니 partela 드니 야ger마ger다 드니 mambo시면들 드니 다 예위로 가시라 특성화했어.
So then immediately after that period, there wasn't much translation activity, and then that brings us up to the relatively recent times.
드니 따따 드니 페나 드니 장거는 뭐지? 콩남바서 드니 워츠니 드니 야이가 돌아 용캔 같더니 보고 돌아 맹캔 같더니 도뇽 슈즈 야르 드니 저기 차르진다고 드니 셰컨도 따따 고츠니 드니 난거들.
And some Tibetan teachers, like Dzangpa Rinpoche, currently has a plan or project to translate a small number of Chinese sutric texts into Tibetan.
드니 보고 토니 마르양 드니 mambo's gergendes. 단 캄부 소다진다 콩나바 양페 페차 mambo gergendes.
And a great deal of Tibetan works are being translated into Chinese. So Khenpo Tsultrim and his cohort, for example, are doing a great deal of translation.
드니 티토니 인지 돌아서양 드니 mambo gerge요 사레스.
And also a lot translated indicate ne.
보르근니 인지가.
Oh yes, and there's a lot being translated.
보르근니 인지가 돌아서양 mambo gerge요 사레스.
And a lot of works translated from Tibetan into English.
드니 가서 따르다거든요. 나도 치슈디 드니 가서 특징ger만 바데레스.
And the greatest current problem is a lack of standardization or uniformity in terms of terminology.
증주조트비야 말했어.
Because we haven't made an appropriate dictionary.
베나가 좀 강반들이 잡거나 담보드니 강바가 소박스가 공도. 강바가 소박다 짝다 대수조고인데. 드니 지니 소박다 짝라더니 드니 강바조고 그래서.
So it's just like if we are building a house, it's necessary for us to first construct or to first make the mud bricks and to have the iron frame, and only then can we begin to build the house.
드니 가서 강반만 보 잡고 요나야 드니 소박다 드니 짝다 또 차당 담바드니 요 말했어.
So even though we're building a lot of houses, the bricks and the iron frame that we're using is not a particularly standardized type.
드니 강바자고나 집에 캠선다 드니 착그랬을 테니.
And so this leads to houses that have a very strange form.
아니 따당 가서 참아거든요. 인지다 보니까 당더니 보다 자니까 출을 그더니 승주 약보서 달라 파베야 드니가 레아시고요.
And so for this reason I have great hope that we are able to develop an English Tibetan and Chinese Tibetan dictionaries for translating Buddhism.
대셔당 잠불은 건롤이랑 때 이제 레다 차버던 가서 뭐 그더니 로통 작식다 드니 니자 응원라더니 쇼이 냠용텔라 때나 드니 당보 르피 종룩다 드니 춤조 땅라 밤니 드니 게르나 때페 약보른 로아데 가서 냠용도.
This is probably the process that takes place all around the world, but certainly in terms of Tibet's own experience, 1200 years ago, first establishing a dictionary and principles of translation enable the fruits of translation to be very good. This is our historical experience.
Tani ta teso ngaso gyabo ni keteni jonda pecha kor keteni rewa kortores. Gyabo ku chuni ka pecha rewa kortores. Pecha jong tonim rewa.
So the choose the
Ta ngaso ti yanchula shakita. Wa tani gyada poni ka pecha jong. Ta nika kandi rewa kandi tores.
Okay, so what we've covered is the textual connections or correspondences between the Chinese and Tibetan traditions.
Tani tartara woina tani yang nani yar tani poka nala yungni tani taga lojong shi denkaya tani kala kansam yores.
And at the in the present day, there are a number of Chinese coming to Tibet to study the Buddha Dharma.
Tani taso nala soso me ger ka tani nyamninta tani yapo yosa tani mambu yungu yo jire tani ngato hako maris.
And among these, there are no doubt a number who have good personal practice, or it's not possible to say for certain.
Ina da yugirnda tani go tolak tani go santumbo tani go tani yakbo tani ger tanga tani pe kombori parchi 통하면 되지.
So even though there may be some good or excellent practitioners, there are very few, or rather almost no people who are able to translate at a very high level.
tani Taiwan ga nala yugirshi denke mambondos.
However, there are a lot of skilled translators in Taiwan.
코소라요. 측문자와 배셨다는 듯.
But they use their own different words too.
아니 야나가 나가면 되지. 코소양 코소 측문자와 배셨다는 듯.
And those who translate in the mainland use their own different words.
대니양 집반도 야보 토특탑 건면 듯.
So these are not, they're not really coming together.
아저배나 타이완이 코소 어디니 보그추 Taiwan ga jai ko thola gerwa tindisi kherione tani janaka mitindisra tanna te khoso yang jacha ja kwalin tab mandus.
So for example, works on Tibetan Buddhism that were translated into Chinese in Taiwan, if they're taken to the mainland, then mainland Chinese can't gain 100% understanding of what's been written.
다 tindi indi gangsta tini ta jong tarta ina mambo tini jerjang de halipa mambo jerkan de tarta.
In any case, a great deal of textual material is being translated at the moment.
Tini jong tini mambo jerya da nyamde tini yang pena bog tini chunda na yang tarta tini yang mar janagla mar yang mambo targiyores.
And at the or in tandem with this great translation output, Tibetan Buddhism is becoming widespread in China.
Tarzina tini jachimbo tini yo marta ta magir tini gaboshin tini haliba mambo yor mansuk nala.
When I say widespread, I don't mean massively widespread, but rather that at the personal or private level, the number of people who are interested or like Tibetan Buddhism is very great.
Tani Taiwan da janak layang tes raumendus.
So the situation in mainland China is a bit different to that in Taiwan.
Tani Taiwan la tini te bog chu la tini tabashin kenda tini yoyore ta ina janak rao tini jogbo ta tini tarchip chimboz ro tapkomendus.
So even though there are a lot of people in Taiwan with faith in Tibetan Buddhism, the extent it's not hasn't or isn't gaining as much popularity and as rapidly as it has in the mainland.
Tini testisina shedang tini Taiwan la kosola ngamani tini ta ishi chulu la tapashin kenda oda tini chulu jamba la tapashin kenda yosare ta tini kyapurto tini gyang nangshu la tini te tapashi denken the tezi tini mambores.
And this might have something to do with the fact that to begin with in China there was there was Christianity and other religions, as well as a lot of people with faith in the Chinese Buddhist tradition. So one of the reasons is probably this. So at the level of monasteries or temples in either Taiwan or Han Chinese areas of China, Tibetan Buddhism isn't making any or a great influence. However, among the public in China, Tibetan Buddhism is having great influence. The demographics among which Tibetan Buddhism is making such an influence is not the elderly generation, grandmothers and grandpas. It's mainly or primarily among young people that it's having a big influence. And mainly among young people, those who have a good standard of education. And so in China, within individual families, people are experiencing some degree of conflict in terms of their views on religion. Those of, say, 60 or 70 years of age, those who came through the Cultural Revolution, the older generation, they don't have faith in religion. And among young people in general in China, even though their level of education is very high, there are many, or a great deal, who do not have faith in religion. 최보이는 총원이는 냠주되니 대바메나 되니 가와 가다디 가는 바래.
마마마 쥐터짝도 보고 출을라 답바 멘킨장나라 할리바 몽보요. 또다 샤고 말이. 답바 용켄수 샤고.
Yeah, that's it. And conflicts within families are becoming rather frequent.
되니 답바 요사 네 점상가나라더니 파마소더니 답바 매바더니 로뇽소더니 답바 요바리니 점상가나라더니 가라 되니 따와가 돈이 많단 바라고더니 요거.
So situations where parents or the elderly generation doesn't have religious faith, but the younger generation does, in situations like this, conflicts or are arising due to a dissimilarity in religious outlook.
Ena tini to jagnala mi mambo indi tartanda boina tini tapa yongken ga changada menken ga changanika tapa menken ga changada mamboda yongken ga changada nyong tini res.
However, the Chinese population is very large. At the current moment, the number of people without faith is greater than those with faith.
아니 답바 용켄 때문에 동시는 이유세요.
동시는 2 million 봐. 200 million.
200.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The number of people who are said to have the number of people who are said to have Buddhist faith is 200 million.
Teni kashi zena teni ngus nangchula tapa yungken tongshir ni yore. Teni yena tong tapa da gawu yo na teni ta pardini sabjang raw sarung raw menken teni ga tongshir ni yore. Chun tongshir ji yore teni ze yore.
So it's also said that the number of people who have
tapa ngoma yungke chi ta nangchu nangla teni ta tin nangten ten sok jongshok teni ze yore. Ngus teni nangchu teni nangba ga thoma raw tongshir ni. Teni tela gabu shinken tarong teni ngus sarung raw re matsal ken teni tongshir ni. Chun tongshir ji yore teni ze yore.
So the Buddhist Association, the China Buddhist Association, says that in addition to the 200 million of people who identify as Buddhists, there are also another 200 million Chinese who have interest or liking for Buddhism, in which case the statistics are 400 million.
Tani yang kashi gzena ta tani lomang ngoma yinken tani tongshir ni. Tani lomang rawo tani chu so taba yona yang ta ngara taba yo zeni. Tani tani saru tani shia menken tani tongshir ni. Tani chula taba ngus mena gabun rawo shenken tani tongshir ni. Chun tongshir jung dug zeni. Tani ko tsokhak shenken dug zeni.
And then there are others who make an estimate of 600 million people, breaking that down into 200 million people with a clear Buddhist faith, 200 people with a more equivocal Buddhist commitment, and then another 200 million people who generally like or are well disposed to Buddhism, which in total makes 600 million people. How many people there are in actual fact, it's not possible to say. These are just general figures that are spoken about. I personally wouldn't know what the actual number is. In any case, the number of Buddhists is increasing every year.
The
fact that the number of Buddhists is growing year by year is an extremely obvious and apparent trend. So breaking down the demographics of those who are following Tibetan Buddhism, approximately 70% would be young people. So that's just my personal estimate, it's not an official statistic. Of those students or followers that I have knowledge and contact with, approximately 70% would be young people and 30% elderly people. And among these people, there is much positive impact being made. But there is also some negative impacts as well. There are, for example, a lot of lamas, or people who claim to be lamas when they're not, or reincarnate lamas who claim to be reincarnate lamas when they're not, and Khenpos who say they are when they're not, who go to China. Not just do they claim to be lamas when they're not, they also do a lot of bad things.
teni drabdewa anda ger katon drabdewa anda teni the mambondux.
So there are a lot who go to China and use their titles to gain personal and economic profit.
Yena parche teni dokshugni teni nipa thoya teng ne samlo tangna jasha ngapchin masi jasha chwangan rawo jini chwangan rawo teni ri samudus dokshug.
However, I would say that in terms of negative impact, this only would comprise, say, 15% of the overall impact of Tibetan Buddhism.
Mangchu teni tele jambata parche jachi jarngan rawo teni yarmarta teni yang drangshogni yakshogni teni shikin tebdeya teni na borindus.
The remaining 85% the lama riba, the lama community.
다 shikin ga.
That's it. In terms of the overwhelming impact of Tibetan Buddhism, 85% would be positive.
Teni tendri indi teni ta ti yimbi gimtsandi ena teni ta lonyong da tso nangla teni nangchu la teni te tapashia ta adi shirtang teni ta ja rangla yang chu yore teni gomba yore teni bok teni ta chu de la teni ta yang teni mambos teni tapashi de yang gimtsanzi teni yokandusi.
So among young people, well, in China, they already have their own Chinese Buddhism. So there are reasons for them deciding to place their faith in the Tibetan tradition.
Teni ja chula ina ngama ina tramta chimbo getse teni ja landuksi.
In the history of Tibet, of Chinese Buddhism, there are considered to be 8 different schools or sects.
Tarta dinane shikin chishuti ni matok chilbozum doze ni redos shikin chishuti.
However, nowadays only 2 of these schools really have any influence. The others don't.
Teni chigde ganrezina teni ta teni jaga tarjang teni omen doya tere doze.
One of these, or the first of these, is the Pure Land tradition in Chinese Buddhism.
Teni ni de teni ta sangtun goya tere doze.
And the second is the Chan tradition.
Teni te nika nga su boga nala yore shena korang chu korang ngoni shena pe yakbo hale pa yakbo re.
Both of these traditions or practice traditions also exist in the Tibetan tradition and are really great practice traditions.
Yena teni ta nga su teni de sangje gam chan donje ohome teni doya tso yang chi garge su ma tok pa yang lonyong cho yang teni ramon don ni teni tapa jane teni detap ko samaris.
The Datakagyak.
Right.
However, in terms of reciting the Buddha's name, doing recitations, and not much more, this is something that is appealing to elderly people only, and not so much to young people.
Tani yang samtung gomya te pe teni ta chu zammo hale pa pe yakbo ta yena teni yang ta te something teni yang gomni teni gona yang te nyamtok yakbo teni gella kia ta so yang lonyong chola te zakabo yang go sares.
And then in terms of Chan practice, Chan is an extremely profound meditation practice. However, in order to attain a advanced level of realization and insight through meditation is relatively difficult for young people.
Tani ta bog teni te chu rabo yena teni ta te la ramba na ma na so mambo zum thombo mamo teni tim jang to so ramba mambo yores.
In terms of the Tibetan tradition, however, there are many different levels and stages of practice. There are basic levels, more advanced levels, intermediate or average levels.
Teni ta mo chama teni jerwa chimbo teni indi teni yang hale ba yang rambo ta ja chimbo teni gona chamala tichu yo samares.
But these days, because everyone is extremely busy in their lives, then it's difficult for them to practice or devote a lot of time to practice or to do so for a very long period of time.
Teni indi tang asu bog nangla teni nyamling garamba pe na teni nyamling chigi na ta te korangla geba gona geba teni jang teni gona jang teni tab debo gona tab debo pe na dorji sen wa nyamling ta chigi na ya geba gona hale ba geba teni yongkan. Then jang gona yang jang ya dipa gona halipa teni dipa yongkan teni so rang teni gang nyamselen chona nyamselen samna nyamling chok daw 든지 남가 몸보였기 때 짐선식인 사례죠.
So within the Tibetan tradition, just one practice tradition such includes many different levels of practice. There are more comprehensive or extended, elaborate ways of practicing, much more simple, abbreviated versions, other forms of practice that are somewhere in between those two. So one example would just be Vajrasattva practice. There are extremely elaborate forms of Vajrasattva practice as well as more simple, more abbreviated versions of practice. And so really one can choose which approach suits oneself. And so there are seemingly many choices for people.
Yang rimba tone na pena ngasu nangchu na de bog nangchu na la nyamling ko korte ta lo when na lo chung go lo chen lo jang go lo chen teni lo ra chi mo lo chen dao dendu ni gorum pe saro teni ja go ji di goni de mo cho nyamling chi na so so nyamling chi de bo dao yin ge de jim so chi gen sa.
And so one of the reasons for the appeal of Tibetan Buddhism is, as just said, that there is a great spectrum of practices available in terms of their complexity or simplicity. Another reason probably is the fact that in terms of difficulty, the Tibetan tradition has very clearly spelled out stages. So practices that range from the equivalent of an elementary school level to a middle school level to a university school level. And so for people, this makes it very convenient to practice. And so this is probably one reason for the appeal of Tibetan Buddhism too.
Tani chabarda dini sangna ka korte ni sang ulame ka korte nga so tari kongla tani bog nang chu ma to ba jam ba yo mari tani ti nala pe zammo hale ba tani zammo ta ya tab de boda tani de mongbo to changma de ti nala yo re ma to ba jam ba nang de sama ta nga chon rabon ra ore ti chachu ngoma ti so tani nga so te ting korta ti shakchinda jokshinda to so nala yo re to nga so tani bog chu ma to ba jam ba la me yongdi teni me mamboz ka teni shikin temro chi so ti nangdung go shogniya parchi insari samdo.
And then another reason is also due to the content of the Vajrayana teachings and practices. These, particularly the highest yoga, highest Tantra yoga practices, as mentioned, contain content that is both extremely profound and extremely simple, such as the Dzogchen teachings and so forth. And it is probably on account of the fact that this is really the distinguishing content of the Tibetan tradition that is not found elsewhere. Otherwise, besides this level of practice, there is much that is in common between the two traditions. So probably this content of the tantric tradition is one reason for its appeal too.
Tani nyamling ka tani Koreana chabarda tani rupi zonglu ka kor tawa ka kor ta so na yang tani bog ka tani nangtang ka nala ta lama mambo ko tani yang jerwa chimbo jerwa chongchong jerwa dipa tani yang ti nane chen takshin rawo ta tani drifshik ka tani namjang ramjang mambo dorna saro sarkyang shi ni tani shayu pi jimtsingi mutso ko tani tana 고알은 딱 대본라고 했더니 요거 요사래 했더니 디김슨이 연사래. 제와 잡지. 제와 되니 따가서 보고더니 나추고 나라 다 디타와 걸라. 제와 사루. 제와 또 사마할이 박사로 겨워. 다 그래. 단돌 디파스는 저거.
And then in terms of the doctrinal view in Tibetan Buddhism, the commentaries and explanations of views of the view of practice is extremely clearly set forth, and so this is another reason for the appeal of Tibetan Buddhism.
아니 든지거더니 다 김천 파르치 유진라고 든지거 연사리 다롱양 다등네 셔당거 다 소소 다 랑상 잠반로 이마도 바디 집근 당점나 다 김천 망보 유지리스.
So those 4 reasons are probably are reasons for the appeal of Tibetan Buddhism among Chinese today. These are the 4 reasons that come to mind just now when I think about it. Probably if I were to think about it for a little longer, there would be many other reasons too.
근데 던지고 시킨다데 가보더니 신조어 바대양 되니 소소 뭐 소소 거랑초 되니 따니 되니 거랑초 약보레 삼니 던지고 시킨 템줘야 맞다 바 데일에 잠바치 짜친 보고 되니 지 잡적다 지 짜친 보고 던지 말했을 때 벌써 소소 게르그 따니 다 자와 토이나레 간가 통디 따니 온데 약본득 삼니 되니 시킨 망보 파르더니 던지 템줘도
The reason or the popularity of Tibetan Buddhism is due to people finding out a bit about it and deciding that it's good for themselves. It's not due to any really wide publicity or publicity campaign or anything like that. It's just through people finding out about it themselves, whether on the internet or through other means, deciding that it's good and then becoming interested.
Teni tema to bateni tartanda boyna teni yaga teni chu teni bognala yar teni shikin tewanda teni tatachi tongjimundu.
But aside from this, in terms of Chinese Buddhism making impact on Tibetan Buddhism, this I've not really seen.
다테서 담주 보가랑 그 따스른다고 그랬어.
So all of this is just my personal opinion.
돈라네 요나 메나 하고 말했어.
Whether in actual fact this is the way things are, I can't say.
정말 지치지.
Thank you very much.
우리가 저 까만 니시 담바도 디나라가 저 갑다시나 역사를.
So there's 20 minutes now for some questions, if anyone has any.
Yeah.
Khenpo Tsultrim Lodro. This is first English. Tantrism is something. The Buddhism and Tibetan
Let's
just asking that, Khenpo explain about what impacts having. So my question is that those Chinese who are following the Tibetan Buddhism, through their practice of Tibetan Buddhism, what kind of impact they have on their perception of Tibetan culture, Tibetan history, and their relation with the Tibetans?
Penadi 다 출라 난출라 다바시 된근도 망치사대야 볼라 마몬론 보고 공바 초고난로 드니 사산단도 소 드레도 망보란로 드니 가시 소소 라마들이 다 볼라 요 차티드니 라마 살란로 공방나란로 드니 니마카시 데 드니로 시디 드니 보고 르네 베나주 두글롱라오다 또 코르텔라요 지 소소 지드니 가본라오 시네 드니 공바 존denke 양나드니 베나 자미나라 보거드니 공반단도 소 존이 파르드니 존denke 양나 소소한 게 존den케라 드니 용근도 갈레갈레 드니티 르그니라도 소라양 코소라치 무서 그드니 드니 다지 소란다고 드니 요근도.
So among those who have faith in Tibetan Buddhism, they often come to Tibet, visit monasteries, visit Lama. For those with Lamas in Tibet, they often visit their monasteries, stay for a few days, and in the process develop some liking for aspects of Tibetan culture, such as Tibetan clothing. So there are some who take to wearing Tibetan clothing or then selling Tibetan clothing. In any case, slowly this is happening. Chinese followers are developing some special feeling for Tibetan culture.
영들이 가시 영들이 다 거랑랑라 고야디 nanchu dere nanchu rang dere ma to ba jamba tona ma shin kan raw de ma yosari.
But then there are also some for whom that which they want or need is purely Buddhism, and besides this they're not seeking much else.
Tate ji lojong ji yin rang ma rang raw ta teni ji tang za ma zam raw teni chabar ndu sam ndu ta pena yin rang raw teni nyamlin ji yin rang raw teni lojong ji teni ji yong di teni gangstar teni bok chuda teni rungni ni kan rewa chimbo yo chati teni ji sama la de gabon raw shin kan de re
But this probably has some connection to whether the people in question are actual students of Tibetan Buddhism and the depth of their studies or involvement. For people who study for some length of time, this entails contact with Tibetan religion and culture, and so they generally develop a liking for both.
Geluk gomba na la tat tat gil tomp jergo.
So we hear that there are a lot of Chinese students studying Tibetan Buddhism, particularly at places like Larung and Yachinga, but it seems that there are not so many studying at Gelug institutions, and what might the reason for this be?
Geluk gomba na la tarta shedang yaran roni teni je mo ger gunguni perna lama ten de rata wang jinkan rata teni to labrang rata teni kumbum da to perna nga so de kham gu shola yang teni geluk gomba mambo yori to so na la teni dro den kan dug yina tim borchim teni to roken mambo roken da yang na mambo roni to na dug ni teni sojong shi den kan teni tarta me ba
So there are Chinese followers who do go to Gelug monasteries with in a personal capacity with their lamas or to seek empowerments, whether it be at the Larung or Gumbo monasteries in Amdo or some of the major Gelug monasteries in Kham. So, but even though quite a number of people do go to these monasteries, the number who actually stay there for any length of time and study, well, there aren't really any people who do this.
And if
I think about it, I say there are a few reasons for this.
Sala teni ja chu lojong che den kan teni te yong de ta ngama da wena nga su dari de lo ja da ji ge gong da wena zo de geluk na la teni lojong che ne geluk chu mar peranda teni ma to ba nyang ma da te jamba na la mambo me pa da zre lo ja da ji ge gong la na ti kap te la teni da zre geluk zo da wren
Ni che ji la ta ta yin na teni kya che ki ki dun
ta ta ne tim chu shet no
So 100 years ago, in actual fact, it was mainly Gelug religion that was popular among Chinese followers.
Teni ti kaus mar teni janag lan rong kan lama khashi zin du so ti parchi teni nyangma da ta yang ti gelug yo sari teni da ren de yar rong kan so parchi gelug na ma to ba teni nyangma da teni na la lojong shin ke mambo me ban da ren mama de.
So in the past there were a couple of Nyingma lamas who traveled to China to teach the Dharma and a couple of Gelug teachers as well, but in terms of the people who were coming from China to study in Tibet, they were all coming to study in the Gelug tradition and not in the Nyingma tradition.
Teni tarta na perna teni ta nga so gar la te ya teni lojong shi de teni ndu teni ya 야친 가르사 텔라 되는 도서 코르테 조데 되니 다 슐로네 용큰 거더니 야드니 소종제견라 파르티니 고시 마신다고 영나 코초당더니 튼비더니 속천든지 잡득 시마신다고 드리즈 점서 찍대린도 되대 맞아 있나 빼나 지금 야치 잡든 노니 되니 다 야카시 되니 소종 되니 시사용 되니 시용 되니 코초라 되니 코초당 참비더니 네 속천즈더니 고죽 시바리 티카스 만본분들 야 제카든이라고 선도 되니 깔레 되니 야 장마되니 야가 되니 보고나라 데 소종시야 되니 고츠티 되니 코초다 보고나라 되니 속천 강나요 따용디 파시 되니 데 라롱 가르텔라 되니 속천즈 득사 반도 동고요사리 데 잠바 나라 디카스 파치 따로 되니 그 파르갸라 되니 카타 피디니 속천자오 디카스 따로 요사마리 되니 인디 디 짐슨지 mambo they 통인사리 짐서 시드도 인사리
Now, however, at Larunga and at Yachinga, there are a number of Chinese followers who study Buddhism. They come from outside, they come from other places in China. And this, I would firstly say, is the difference is due to whether or not the monastic institutions are open or not to Chinese followers, or rather whether or not they have made effort to provide appropriate lessons for Chinese students to actually study at their institution. So in 1987, the first Chinese arrived at Larunga to study, to take lessons. There were at that time only around 10 Chinese students. But from this point onwards, the academic provision for Chinese students continued to develop. At that time, there really weren't any other places that offered appropriate studying conditions for Chinese students who were interested in Tibetan Buddhism. So that's, I would say, one of the reasons.
근데 다타이나 길그 갭시 카시 마르더니 야나라 손에 곰바 잡네 곰바 카시 잡네 더니 ndgon 컨트리 갭시 ndo 더니 테 마인비티니 곰바 길그 갭시 소더니 마르 야나라 펩덴컨 더니 nd더니 야나컬로 마 야라 갭시 소 살란도니 소종 칼라칸섬 싱겐 더니 ndo 이나 다티 파르트 길그 곰바 이나 샤타이나 나라 야초라 우스티니 소츠 오만다고 되니 고드니 파치 메반다고 디 짐슨지 곰바나라티니 롱켄데티니 버친다고 되니 메바인사레.
So nowadays there are a couple of Gilug Geshis who have gone to China and actually constructed monasteries or temples in China. And there are also a number of Gilug Geshi who go to China and reside there for a period of time. There are also some Chinese who come to Tibetan areas to study with their Geshe teachers, but probably because at the institutional level, monasteries and the Shedra, the academic schools in the monasteries, have not made explicit or formal provision for Chinese students. This is the reason that the numbers studying there are not very great.
A question on Tantric Buddhism. My understanding in India, the Tantrism predates Buddhism. I was wondering if the early Buddhist teachings had a strong tantric element, or if that's a later additive in your understanding.
야. 다들 배나가서 소자가 나라요 캔거 임직신 근자오 든지 거텔라요 거랑서 거라라라 수소라요 만다 든지 그 수소 게르크타와 든지 샤진도스.
In terms of the development of the different Buddhist traditions, insofar as academic researchers are concerned, there are many different viewpoints.
옛날 때는 가서 난추 랑그 되니 샬 따오라고 옛날 때니 또 당보 산지에 그때니 ndo 그때니 추대 송요.
But from the Buddhist perspective, it is the Buddhist perspective considers the sutras to have been the first teachings of the Buddha.
되니 산지에 랑 육비 값을 되니 상 종스 송도 옛날 자충충 마도 봤더니 잡자 친구 되니 송문도.
And the Buddhist tradition also considers the Buddha to have taught tantras during his life. However, he only taught on a small scale, not on a large scale.
되니 산진 데니 되니 로니시 잡짓 그 지라 되니 럼베 따라리 되니 송아래서 가서 나추 랑글로진라오이나.
According to a Buddhist view of history, it was 28 years after the Buddha's passing that the tantras began to be more widely disseminated.
되니 나랑 그들이 따스르 공부시나 배나 롭다 나라 옆이 되니 임직신근다 가시 그 되니 나추인데 상학때 나추 몰라레 제제 야거 그들이 출르그 나라 힌디 출르그 나라 도즈네 던지 젠근도스.
In my own, according to my own personal view, well, there are academic researchers who claim that Tantra existed before it came to Buddhism. It existed previously in Indic religion.
되니 디 점선된 가르지나 나라랑 같다 설거만도 시나 대변나 맞서 상가 나라 되니 요비 되니 초가 가신다고 다 되니 지금 할거 건다다 되니 그 가시도 되니 야거 되니 슈서 그 남바데 야거 되니 출거 나라 때때는 자사라고 되니 요래.
And the reason that this would make sense to me is that in terms of our rituals and deities, in terms of their external appearance, there is some similarity between them and those in the Hindu tradition.
되니 옛날 양 되니 남돈티 되니 양 카카 수수레도스.
However, in terms of the content, it's completely different between the Buddhist and the Hindu tradition.
되니 인디 되니 다 점직 되니 생긴 저거 띵올라 되니 상가 띵올라 더제 되니 젠디 점선도 파지데 딘진다고서 그 고네 코솔라 상로 되니 콜코 요사레 상도스.
So it's probably that it's for reasons like this that researchers come to the idea that Tantra preceded Buddhism.
다들 배나 가서 인지 머신캔들이 납쇼고 이게 머신캔즈 그 따나 배나 인지가 이게 당 되니 집배나 또 이게 잠바 유 참마 되니 다 참마식 받아고 그랬는데 와때 인지가 때 사실다 저 나오고 참마식이 삼송한다고 같이 든지라고 그래서 보듯.
Probably it's just like a person who just goes to inji machine can revive.
인지 뭐 이게 머신게 인지가 이게 파란스 이게 되니 mambo즈 그더니 이그식 받아고 그랬는데
It's like a
합도
person.
갖다 하나씩 받아온다.
It's like someone who's literate. To them, all languages, English, French, whatever, they all look much the same.
신경스 갖다 나온다. 더 인지 더 말해서 뭐 시그레스.
But a person who knows how to distinguish them can say, "Oh, that's English, that's French, and so forth."
야.
I wanted to know, Buddha life for for the nuns and monks living in Larung. How's your access to health in terms of for the nuns and monks? Do you still practice traditional Tibetan medicine, and or you also have started incorporating modern medicine?
Did so Larunga then Jomutan Trapa Trodun Kudeni Kolore. Kutso Namgyun the
Trodun.
Trodun condition.
Trodun. 야.
그래서 데니 초등 그 데니 다 겹수조 디 소진 그 데니 탑시 페이지 당그레 당땅락 그 데니 탑시 당그레
테니까도 누다 가서 티갈라이나 소진 그더니 보 그더니 티 소아르 바가더니 전자 즈 요레 데니 틴 전자 데라 데니 망캉즈 요레 요 디낭니 짱데니 트로팅 그 콜라 데니 요 데스 데니 디낭리 조진 타테 요 셰크레스.
So there are both at Larunga. At Larunga there is an actual class that majors in Tibetan Buddhism. And then there is a Tibetan medical hospital at Larung, and within that hospital they give treatment according to traditional ways.
이 대마인비 되는 가서 다다는 되는 너쇼고만 너쇼고만 그 되는 만큼들이 총총요 되는 가서 가시요 자방나라요 요 아니 안에 나라 요래 되가 대 디낭내 장되니 다 망슈도 뜬다고 인사해서.
And besides this hospital, we also have Western medicine. So a couple of small hospitals, one for the monks and one for the nuns, and in fact probably the majority of medical provision is Western medicine.
Yeah. 다시 들려요.
I was wondering, you mentioned fraudulent lamas and tulkus before. What if there is any infrastructure to expose them, and what can Tibetan Buddhist institutions do to prevent them?
Teni kyeke teni songche nangla di lama zuma tang tuku zuma ge ko le jong song song de ba.
Yes.
Teni data ina ko zo ke 其实teni chimbu ke tola ina yang di ko zo gomba rang ke teni teni 其实ko zo ke teni chimbu tola ko zo ke 其实ko zo ke di mebe so be teni tapshe ze yo. Teni teni tin jo ni ba de teni bo ji nang den den ro zo ke ne zo jong teni mebe zo ko na di 其实
다 라라트 테니 곰바가 나라 테니 야 곰바가 라마라 튼저 그래디 곰바가 나라 라마 게유신이 약보 요나나 거서 참 담보조 테니 텐지 조야라 테니 카테 코소 마시나 마시레 마도 시나 람상 코소 테니 마라 곰바나니 피안다 텐지야 제리 텐지 곰바 카시기 텐지 쉐소.
So it really depends on the on the monastery. If the monastery in question has good and upright lamas who strictly enforce their laws and regulations, then if they don't know about it, someone who's acting in this way, they can't do anything. But if they do know, then they would expel such a person. Khenpo's heard of cases like this.
곰바 카시기 테니 테니 코소 테니 문디 테니 코란소 곰바 코란소 테니 망라 테니 어떤지 남다 텐지 제근도 그지 옛날 텐니 가초 텐니 코랑 텐니 몰렌 제금에 가초 곰바탄 레메자한다고 텐지 시에니 텐니 다 텐지 신종 그냥 가신도 다가 텐지 쇼소.
And so there have been cases where individual lamas have been using a particular monastery's name to, do all kinds of things, and then the monasteries have said, we don't recognize this person, and have made statements like this.
테니야 곰바 가시네요. 코랑소 가요. 그래서 코소라디 용고용 그래.
And then there are some monasteries who actually like this because they get a lot of revenue.
텐디디 곰바 나라 라마 약보 요밀라 그래.
So it really depends on the caliber of the lamas at the individual monasteries.
테니 곰바 나라 라마 약보 텐디 메나나 테니 곰바 라마 코랑 만도나 다 코랑 마고 칸다 오시니 데그레스. 코랑 마고 칸다 마고 이존다 오시니 데그레스.
Pretended they didn't hear it.
Oh, right. And then there are monasteries where the lamas pretend that they haven't heard this. They don't know what's going on.
대시에서 테니 트라니 드셔서. 때 까무레도스 때 까무레도스 때 가가요레들이 따르타페나 냐롱 사차나 보이나 고조 곰바 참마 냠르시네 데니데 딘디글 레카 랭켄가 뭐 요다 메지네 데니 가간도스 로리 총도 총네 고조 가네 곰바 수소 약보시 된다스 디 판통 할리바 빼메바 판통 도시 이나 지경메 바틴디스 용고나 데스 갖고 이나 다디 판통도 딘디 곰바 참마 딘디 시ገብ잖아 배 제용란존에 약보린도 사리스.
Well, it's very difficult to completely stop this kind of thing happening. But in Larung County, in Sichuan, there have been efforts made where all the monasteries have united together and they have meetings every year, particularly to try to stop this thing taking place. And this actually has brought a lot of benefit, but it's impossible to really stop to prevent any single case from happening. So if all the monasteries were really to make a lot of effort and get together, then this would yield significant results.
배는 야롱거 드니 코초 곰바 로레라 참아 곰바 용조 다 디나라 드니 반대가 곰보요 디 곰바요레 본부 곰바요레 켠도나 곰바 치지 종종 참았으나 즉치는 요레 야롱라 곰바 맘보레 드니 참아 로치라 선속 드니 속내 드니 레믹 존에 드니 다 배나 결혼서 곰바 나라 드니 마르 드니 데 자나라 마르 드니 드니 레카드 볼랭케 요다 메스 요나 요지 딱잡 드니 메나 메스 드니 딱잡 어 드니라 보시니 드니 담보 시니 야보 시니 데 페판토 용거든.
So in Larung County, they once a year convene meetings with 60 monasteries taking part, and these monasteries include Buddhist monasteries and Bombo monasteries too. And they get together once a year, and in fact they distribute lists or forms, and each monastery has to indicate on the form whether among their sangha there are lamas going to China and doing various things. So these kinds of meetings are actually having a great impact.
드니 양아초 멋작 나라. 과랑 라마다 잡아다 갈라인다. 잡았자한디 라마다 적금 간보다 갈라이. 잡았자가니 마인케. 어 딘지거더니 못해서 짜마르 잘네더니 딘지 존네더니 람상 마라 존네더니 드니 과랑 적금 진짜마다니 딘지신케 요레스 멋작 나라.
And then among lay people, Tibetan lay people, putting aside those, not claiming to be lamas or chulkuls when they're not, just lay people pretending to be monks. There are cases like this where lay people shave their head, go to China, and maybe from this point then go on to claim that they're chulkul and things like this.
드니 야나다 보이나 거서 딘지 무조야 치던 고정 닌데는 닙잡셔요레. 닙잡 득딘지 셔요레. 딱 잡요레. 야나다 보이.
In order to stop people doing this kind of thing in China, they singe the scalp of a monk's head with scars.
내가 저때 딱때 요마레데.
But we don't have these signs on our Tibetan heads.
근데 나서 우리 좀반도서 삼았대 가서 뭐다 천두 드나 보바가티 처음 되는다. 약보 할리바 약보 종지여인데.
And these clothes, these monastic robes, there's many shops in Chengdu selling them.
근데 전도란도니 짜마르 잡치 약보 잡더니 드니뇨니 고선하다 라마리 차서.
So you can go to China, shave your head, take a wash, buy some nice clothes, and there you go, you're a lama.
디소 찍어나라 드니 몸보凶성서.
So within a period of time, many people have done this.
드니 곰바소 참아가 드니 주드르시니 드니 나 약보 말해지니 드니 참아가 디토라 각바 몸보 잡니 다다 제뇽란도.
So and many monasteries really oppose this, and many people have been criticizing this, and so there's been a lot of efforts to try to counteract it.
Yeah. 맞아. 데 보고 담주 나슈드도 롱좀바 장난 늑사마리 띵혼라 보고더니 잠부 야럽 거 값스더니 디캅 로자 가지고 장섬 거수 빼 롱좀레 다롱로 잡착 mambo가 그래 거수 담주 mambo 자장도 더니 아주 빼나 더니 추지 추종 대진 것들이 그런 거 담주 자자요 더니 다때 가시게 마린다고 생각도 강터때 용적라 그래 드디인데 코소이나 되니 롱좀발레 다롱로 아진 섬자 유기하든지 가는도와 드디인데 마슈데레즈나 즉사마다 이나 망슈데레즈나 즉사래 망슈데 다 보랑거티니 담주시그나라 저 망보 다데 망슈지나 나마 탕 당보 망보 좀 근데 롱좀 제난 즉사리 망보 자친보데 탕당보데 좀 근데 코너를 제난 즉사리 제가 갈아강선 티혼라 망보데
Just tamcho seconds na jire.
담주 좀큰 담주 좀큰
Oh.
담주 좀큰 담주 좀큰 제가 잡니 담주 좀큰
Oh.
다 롱좀 바데 탕당보 들으면도 뒤에줄 난득다 이나 탕당보 들이 자친보 좀 근데 코너를 예사리 들이 제근도 다때 파시 있나 초사시 담주디 종란 제와
All I say. So in terms of, I think the question was about was Rongzompa the earliest writer of commentaries, and Khenpo's answer was that he wasn't the earliest. That there were other Tibetan scholars preceding him by 300 or 400 years, but he was a very prolific commentary writer, and was probably the first commentary writer to be very prolific.
맞습니다.
Oh, this one is a young man from Tibet, so I think I'll let him have last question.
라스
난드나 좋아 진도 저러잖아. 그거 단타마다 그거 사자로 답변해라 요랬더니 사실 봐 자나레 뉴슈레 수마 깨라신 거리다 켄포 추다 켄포 쏟아지니까 되네 난드나 좋아 지저는 저러잖아 다 그거 정말 비나위 때마다 상하리니다 다 그런산이 배다 배치투시네 다지 부부 보통 부자래다 다 캠보처럼 런다 시나다 다 그거 부주노된 제모다 다 사차 젬바다 야나이나다 뉴슈이나다도 된다도 야신 보통 부자랬더니 배치보까지
맞습니다. 어야. 다시 당대니 뒤통랑아서 보고 나라때 삼설마다 이 샤근도 가시 페르고그레 드니 파르테니 겨나야 보레즈 가시 다 페르냥가 마레 드니 겨나야 보 마레즈 드니 젠큰 드니도 드니 인디 당아 초삼나 드니 난슈 랑가 드니 티 토니 삼로 땅나 티 엔다만다 드니 페르고야 드니 zure테 나초 야나글라 치보 차카마린 잠볼랑가 토라 간디즈 페르 탐나 티니즈 페르 고운트 나추 코랑가 고니 상로타나 데 가리즈나 티니 나추즈야티 셴나 담보네 나추 보바가 마레티니 셴나 담보네 참하고 거리 야거네리 티니 나추 보그 렘바레 타 게나 페르나 티니 로통탁 치크티니 공라 티카스 야글랑 티니 샬루 숑송 티오 단디니 잠모도 소 탐제포 잠발라 보바단도 소라 트라이장나 어디니 나솔란 드금 문득즈니 데 야그르거드니요 드리셰 바 마츠 데니 디 보거드니 로자와서 야그르니 추잠모드니 켄니 마른 로비카스 라마 반츠다드니 단진시니 마르 폴란 로비카스 데니 야그르니 마르드니 인 잡니 오 데니 디 로자와 디 데니 야그르니 데니 마르타바가 데니 낭낙 데니 쳄송 데니 마르타바 쳄송 데니 데니가 인 양추 잡니 데니 젠컨도 디캅시나 야거그 나라야 다 추잠모다 가랑 수작고레 마토바 잔 티니 진난드그 마레제 티니 젠컨도 티나 티니 타이랑다 올라티 타티 페나로 톤타 치갈머그 지 테랑다 올라티니 타나 우니 나추 우니 샤나 디캅스 야거그니 폴라 진 마타나 티니 타상노 도르지 타바다 자와니 잠발라 요사마리 야거랑거든 타보 잡타비야 마리 티니 타 보크카 크톨라야 마게티니 지조타 티니 메니 정말 매바처럼 잠보는 거 정말 매바리 차로서리 옛날에는 티캅스더니 다 볼라 파르더니 겨 탑지도 야거거더니 겨지라 잡기로 만보 나요리 티 잡기로 나오셔 비티 김선지 더니 다 야거라티니 상도지 탑바 매송다 옛날 실상도 도지 탑반 잠보는 거 통라 요 볼라요 본니 서더니 다 잠보라라 쳐 지시나 지마티니 본니 야르 거라잡니 야거라 야르도레 다른 로카시 론지 조착하시 그 지니 야거란도니 야거랑라 디토니 판바 야침보스 코랑스 잡니 잠발라 셔 코랑가 통라 세비용지 딘디기 티소야 메메트 파즈마리 딘디 인디 낭추랑 거니 삼로타나 테 고야즈리 페르 고야즈리 삼거든 아랑랑 타스리나.
So this question was in relation to spreading the unique Tibetan Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism around the world to other cultures and other places. Some people are of the view that this should not take place, and others are of the view that it should. And Khenpo's own opinion on the matter is that, yes, different opinions exist on this question, but from a Buddhist perspective, the Vajrayana teachings, and indeed Buddhism, wasn't originally from Tibet. It was brought from somewhere else. At the time that Buddhism was being brought from India to Tibet, there was a lot of reluctance in India to part with their most secret, profound religious traditions and give them to Tibet. So when the early translators were there was some spread that some people were saying that the Tibetans were taking the bad or evil tantras and things like this. In any case, there was a mindset of keeping India's profound religion to themselves. But after 1,000 years, Buddhism declined in India. It was largely destroyed. So if those teachings hadn't been given to Tibet at that time, then the Vajrayana would no longer have existed. Not only would it have not existed for India, it wouldn't have existed for the world. So by translating it into Tibetan, the Vajrayana teachings were able to exist for everyone from that point onwards. So it's possible that now in translating and spreading the Tibetan tradition to other places, that slowly it might make a full circuit and actually come back to India, the place where it originated, and be of great benefit there. So from a Buddhist perspective, and certainly from Khenpo's own perspective, he thinks there is a necessity to spread the Tibetan Buddhist teachings to other places.
근데 나초 베난 잠볼랑 그 가르 그 돌아 뭐 동시에 즉 연축 그때니 배쇼땅 댕킨 거 되니 가르 제사선도 제사선도 뭐 동시에 즉 연축 그 배쇼땅이 되니 가르 제사선도
Dongshit is 10 million, yeah?
100
million, okay. So of those languages in the world that have 100 million users or more, there are about 10, or slightly more than 10.
근데 인디 가르 침보도 돌아 되니 나추디 바로 작토야데 베가 침보르지 나추 과랑 뭐니 나잡나.
So it's really important for the Buddhist teachings to be made available in these major language groups.
From
a long-term perspective, this is very important. So from a Buddhist perspective, this has the benefit of making the teachings enduring. And also has the benefit of bringing benefit to a lot of people. So for this reason, translating into other languages is a good thing.
I feel terrible bringing this to a close. The good news is Khenpo is here all week, and he's giving lectures and teachings in other contexts at centers, as well as this talk that I think we have advertised in those posters you can pick up, that the NYU DC campus is hosting on, I think it's a teaching on exceptional living is what it's called. And so you have more information on that. I just want to say that every time Khenpo has given us, sent us the message that he would like to come to America and give a talk, we've tried to give him a very big topic so that he has a lot of room to choose what it is he wants to say, because we know he has a lot of constraints. And this time he has given us, on this topic of the Sino-Tibetan Buddhist encounter, a very refined and thoughtful account of a history and development, of which he now is a central player. The future of the Sino-Tibetan Buddhist encounter is something that is being made, and he is a key figure in making it. And I just want to say that we have seen the version of his talk that's very refined and scholarly, because he is, in his tradition, he's considered the greatest scholar living today. However, I also saw him in Chengdu giving talks to big auditoriums filled with young Chinese on the movie The Matrix. Right? And not, I mean, showing clips of The Matrix, with a mashup using contemporary, physics as well, to get across the idea that things may not be quite as you might think they are. And so I have come to really see him as a creative change agent as well as a scholar, and all the different kinds of public sort of interventions that he makes, he does with equal passion and capacity, and it's really astonishing. And one of the questions that people keep asking about Khenpo, particularly given the situation in Larung and in Tibet in general, is how does he reconcile all of this? How does he kind of make sense of things, and what is the takeaway? And I hope the takeaway from this talk and how he's teaching in the US during this visit is that he is working tirelessly, he is working creatively, and he is working fearlessly. And I hope that when we think about the Sino-Tibetan affairs in general and the dispute in particular, we can keep in mind how it takes astonishing people to do astonishing things to make a difference. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.